Welcome, everybody, to the Sentinel Report. I'm your host, Alex Newman. It's wonderful to be with you on this beautiful March 9th that the Lord has made. We've got two very special guests joining us today, Dr. Meryl Nass, to break down the latest on the Epstein revelations, the World Homicide Organization, and the possibility of a future pandemic, especially considering the fact that nobody has been punished for the last one. We also have the great Brad Ward from Armor of Truth joining us to discuss the ongoing fissure that we see developing within MAGA world, within Trump's base. People are upset about the war. People are upset about the Board of Peace. People are upset about different issues. And so Brad's going to help us to make sense of all that. But before we get there, a lot going on in the news. We'll have Andrew Muller joining us to break it down, especially focusing on Iran and some of the incredible new developments when it comes to healthcare, folks, the vaccines. Huge, huge stuff. So stay with us for that. But also, we're going to start with a word from the Word. This comes out of Hebrews chapter 3. I've been reading Hebrews with my children over the last few weeks, and we've got Hebrews chapter 3, verses 1 through 4. The Bible reads, "Therefore, holy brothers, you who share in a heavenly calling, consider Jesus, the apostle and high priest of our confession, who was faithful to him who appointed him, just as Moses also was faithful in all God's house. For Jesus has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses, as much more glory as the builder of a house has more honor than the house itself. For every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is God." Hey, good reminder right there. Right. Now, before we get into the news, folks, I do want to remind you about the danger, the ever-present danger of the so-called child protective services. Right? Obviously, there are some children in need of protection, but the reality is over 37% of American children are going to be investigated as part of a CPS investigation before they turn 18 in this country. Now, over 83% of those children end up being determined not to be victims of abuse or neglect, and yet for the families that are put through these traumatic processes, these investigations are heart-rending, they are traumatic, they're very difficult to deal with. And of course, homeschoolers, Christian homeschoolers, not only are not immune from being reported to CPS, sometimes people who disagree with our educational choices or our medical choices, sometimes there's accidents. We're not immune from these things. We got false reports from disgruntled friends or family members, neighbors, right? People who dislike the way we parent. And so what do you do then if the CPS shows up at your door? Well, if you join Heritage Defense, you can get peace of mind on that front at least. You can call them 24/7. They will have a lawyer in your state who specializes in this area of law ready to come to your defense anytime, literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They've got experienced attorneys ready to fight to protect your home, your children, your parental rights. So go check it out. It's at heritagedefense.org, heritagedefense.org. We just love what they do. I've been a member for many, many years, and we've actually got their phone number right on the refrigerator. So go check it out, folks, heritagedefense.org. If you're a Christian homeschool family, it's a number that you need on your fridge as well. Folks, I want to start off talking about the latest on the war in Iran, just by acknowledging those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. I come from a military family. I've had the pleasure of getting to know a lot of the folks in the military. And I'll tell you what, I can say it unequivocally. Some of the best Americans that we have, some of the best men and women that our nation produces are the ones who end up joining. And this has been my experience just constantly. I mean, not everybody necessarily joins for the right reasons, but when I look at the folks that I know from the military, these are really the greatest Americans that we have so often. And it breaks my heart when politicians betray them. But I do want to share just a little bit about each of the Americans who has died so far in this conflict in Iran. We'll start with Captain Cody Cork. He was 35 years old. He was born and raised in Winter Haven, Florida, not too far from me. He enrolled in the National Guard in 2009 as a multiple launch rocket system fire detection specialist. He was part of the 103rd Sustainment Command. They provide food, water, and other equipment and supplies. He graduated from Florida Southern College in 2014. He was commissioned as a military police officer in the Army Reserve that year. He was deployed to Saudi Arabia in 2018, Guantanamo in 2021, Poland in 2024. He won multiple awards, including Military Outstanding Volunteer Service Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Army Commendation Medal. Truly a great American. His city said this: "Beyond his distinguished military service, those who knew Cody remember him for the kind person he was every day. Friends describe him as someone who was always smiling, easygoing, and genuinely kind, someone who looked out for people around him and left a lasting impression on those he met. Many recall that when you ran into Cody around town, it always felt like no time had passed. Another American who has died, we've got Sergeant First Class Nicole Armour. She was 39 years old. She was from Minnesota. Her husband, Joey Armour, told CBS News Minnesota that she was just days away from ending her deployment and coming home to their 2 children. She enlisted in the National Guard in 2005 as an automated logistics specialist, then transferred to the reserve in 2006. She had previously deployed to Kuwait and seems like just a wonderful lady. She was assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command as well. And her husband, Joey Armour, said she was almost home. You don't go to Kuwait thinking something's going to happen. And for her to be one of the first, it hurts. And folks, keep him and her children in prayer during this impossible time. Next, we've got Sergeant First Class Noah Chechens, 42, from Bellevue, Nebraska. Congressman Don Bacon said he was a native of the area. The U.S. Army Reserve said he enlisted as a wheeled vehicle mechanic in 2006. He had 2 previous deployments, 2009 and 2019, both to Kuwait. He was awarded honors including the Meritorious Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Achievement Medal. He was also part of the 103rd Sustainment Command. And Bellevue Mayor Rusty Hike said that he was married. We don't know anything else about the family as of right now, but the mayor there said Noah dedicated his life to the defense of freedom and answered the call to serve with courage. I honor this selfless commitment. Next, we have Sergeant Declan Cody, 20 years old. He was from West Des Moines in Iowa. He was an Eagle Scout, graduated from high school just in 2023, folks, enlisted in the Army Reserve as an Army Information Technology Specialist. He was a sophomore at Drake University. He studied cybersecurity, was taking online classes while he was in Kuwait, and he too was part of the 103rd Sustainment Command. It was his first deployment, and he was promoted to sergeant posthumously. He had told his father the week before his death that he had been recommended for the promotion, and his father, Andrew, told the Associated Press that his son was one of the youngest in his class, but that he impressed his instructors. So pray for his family as well. We have Major Jeffrey O'Brien, 45 years old, from Iowa, commissioned in the Army Reserve as a Signal Corps officer in 2012, deployed to Kuwait in 2019. In a statement, his parents and brothers described him as a loving man, saying he was a son, a grandson, oldest of 3 brothers, a nephew, and a compassionate young man raised on a farm near Monty, Iowa. Pray for his parents and his brothers, ladies and gentlemen. Number 6, we have the Chief Warrant Officer. Number 3, Robert Marzan. He was 54 years old, from Sacramento, California. His brother, Vic Marzan, told CBS News in Sacramento, "My brother died for our country. He was a lifetime serviceman. He loved his family and his country." His niece, Irene Mary, wrote in a Facebook post that Marzan had served in the Army for more than 30 years, set to return home in about 2 months from what would have been his final deployment. Mary said, "You're our hero with a servant's heart. You lead with love and bravery. You gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country, an honorable soldier, and I believe God welcomed you home with open arms, saying, 'Well done, my son, well done.'" Last but not least, we have Sergeant Benjamin Pennington, 26 years old, from Glendale, Kentucky. He was assigned to the 1st Space Battalion, part of the 1st Space Brigade in Fort Carson, Colorado. He was injured in an attack on March 1st at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, died from his injuries, and hopefully we'll learn more about this young man who paid the ultimate price in the days to come, folks. So be, again, in prayer for each of the families here and recognize that there is a real cost to these things. A cost in American lives, a cost not just in money and treasure, but in American lives. Joining us now to discuss this and much more is Andrew Muller, Chief of Operations here at Liberty Sentinel Media, also an excellent writer, contributor to the New American and other publications. Andrew, thanks for joining us. It's tragic that Americans are now coming home in coffins. What do you make of it?
Well, it's tough, and as you said, Alex, you have a military background, your family, as do I, and we recognize that this is something you sign up for and recognize that is a possibility, but it hurts, particularly when you see it in the Middle East after so many decades of failed foreign policy and foreign quagmires. The story of Nicole Armour strikes me in particular as the only woman listed in the fatalities. She was a mother with 2 children, I do think that is a reflection on our society as well, that we have our women in harm's way serving in the military. I think that should not be. Unfortunately, I think that's a reflection on our Western society, that so many men are back home as keyboard warriors, typing opinions, while many of our wives and mothers are overseas. But of course, we still recognize her and her service nonetheless. So I do hope that this is all American blood that's going to be spilt. But unfortunately, if the president's correct, which I unfortunately agree that I think he is, this is just the beginning. But we do have to ask ourselves, Alex, is this the patriotic, just war that would make American blood worth the cost? And I think that that question is not completely answered. And therefore, I mourn these service members, not just for their patriotism and their loss, which I do, but also for the surrounding situation, as I do think it could have been avoided or neglected.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. We're getting conflicting signals from Washington, D.C. House Speaker Mike Johnson saying this Iran conflict is not a war. Here he is.
Well, we just had an important series of votes on the House floor. As you know, the War Powers Resolution failed. That is the right result. We are not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The President and the Department of Defense have made this very clear. The Department of War has made it very clear. This is a limited operation. It's an operation that's limited in its scope and duration. It has a very clear mission, and that mission is nearly accomplished by all estimates. We are taking down Iran's ballistic missile capability, its stockpile, and its ability to produce more. They were doing that at a scale and a speed that was more than our regional allies could keep up with, and it was a serious and imminent threat to the United States. We don't need to relitigate all that today, but also we wanted to take down the capability of their Navy, and all of that has been very successful. So this needs to continue. It would have been a very dangerous gambit to take the Commander-in-Chief's ability away to complete this mission. It would have been a very serious misstep by Congress, and I'm grateful that that resolution failed.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot there to discuss. The War Powers Resolution, this was where Congress tried to reassert itself a little bit by allowing the president to make attacks if there was some sort of imminent threat or attack on the United States. And the Congress just voted on this, and they decided not to rein in the president, even though they did not declare war here. But, Mike Johnson also said that the president had said this was not a war. But here is President Trump.
We're winning the war by a lot. We've decimated their whole evil empire. It'll continue, I'm sure, for a little while. But very proud of the people, the parents. The parents were so proud of their boy, as they call him, my boy, in case the young lady. The parents are so proud. Many of them are military parents, as you know. So it's, but it's always a very sad thing. The war itself is going unbelievably. It's as good as it can be.
Yeah. So we'll keep you updated on this, ladies and gentlemen. It's obviously a big thing for the U.S. government to be involved in another conflict, limited operation, war, whatever your preference is. This is very, very significant, and there's a lot going on. Turn over to the economic front for a moment. We've got shipping through the Strait of Hormuz basically coming to a standstill. One of the reasons for this is not necessarily that the ships are getting attacked yet, but if ships are going to enter a combat zone, they need to have what's called war risk insurance that would cover the loss of the ship if it were to be attacked, if it were to sink. And the cost of this insurance coverage, according to experts, has gone from about 0.25% of a ship's value to as high as 3% of the value of the ship. That is really, really high. And so according to Sal Mercogliano, I did What's Going On with Shipping. He says the reason they stopped sailing through there is because there was not enough money in the insurance pool to pay out should there be a catastrophic number of attacks. So all that, of course, is leading to very real economic consequences. Oil just crossed over $100 a barrel for the first time in over 4 years. As the war intensifies, it is probably going to go higher, and fuel prices are responding by surging. The memo has now gone out, though. It's just short-term pain for long-term gain. Here we go.
This is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers.
We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain.
Short-term pain. We have to focus on the short-term.
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 Short-term and long-term.
Short-term blip. Hopefully this is a short-term pain. Short-term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefit.
Some short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
All right. Short-term pain, maybe, or maybe long-term. Obviously, somebody sent a memo out. Clearly, we're supposed to believe that this is a short-term thing. Andrew, what do you think? I know there's been some polling released on this. Americans don't seem to think this is going to be a short-term thing. What do you think?
I don't. If the past is any indicator of the future, we'll see that this is a longer-term quagmire. And you have to go back to Mike Johnson saying that this is not a war. That is a part of the reason why everyone's so pessimistic, because this is the same neo-hawk foreign policy that we've seen. Public polling is saying that most Americans think, over 60% of Americans think, this quagmire will last over 6 months. And you have to get back to the semantics of this, Alex, because they're not just little things. Webster's 1828 dictionary defines war as two countries coming together for fighting over superiority or dominion over one another through slaughter or capture of troops or the destruction of ships, towns, or property. This is obviously a war. It's a regime change war. It's a military decapitation war. And to tell the American people, hey, this is just a short-term pain. It's just a limited military operation. It's not going to be an extended foreign war quagmire like we saw in Iraq or Afghanistan or what have you. I think it's a lie. I think it's dishonest. And I hope that it's a short-term war, Alex, but most people don't think it is, and I think they're correct in that assumption.
Yeah, it would be nice to have some more clarity and to know that the folks in Washington are being transparent with people. As far as regime change goes, the regime in Iran has picked a new supreme leader, a new Ayatollah. Apparently, he's quite the hardliner. Apparently, he is not one according to the Sharia. Apparently, the regime had to break their own Sharia rules to put this guy in. But his name is Mojtaba Khamenei. He was chosen to succeed his late father after his father and other family members were killed in an attack by the U.S. and Israel. So this apparently secretive 56-year-old cleric is just the third supreme leader in the history of this ridiculous regime, the Islamic Republic, that again was put in thanks to Jimmy Carter and the State Department and the Western powers. He's got close ties apparently to the Revolutionary Guard. These are the folks that have been firing the missiles and drones at Israel and the Gulf Arab states since the last Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed. Now, Annie Cyrus, expert on Iran and actually a producer on the show, we've had her on to talk about this before. She says that the regime had to break its own Sharia rules to bring this guy in because he doesn't have the necessary education. According to their constitution, their Sharia constitution, the supreme leader needs to be a quote-unquote qualified Islamic jurist, which they call a faqih. That's somebody who is recognized for deep religious scholarship and capable of issuing authoritative Islamic rulings. And Mojtaba Khamenei, the new supreme leader, apparently is not generally regarded as having that level of credentials among the scholarly Shiite community. So we'll see what happens. The Babylon Bee had interesting, kind of funny fake news headline. They put a picture of a skeleton there with the turban on, and they said the Iranians went ahead and chose a new supreme leader who was already dead to save time. So we'll see. The U.S. government has been, of course, redefining the rules of warfare, in that now it seems like the government is openly targeting hostile leaders and their families, even in their own homes. And according to Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, neocon of South Carolina, this is just the beginning. There's more bad guys to take out. Here he is on TV getting all giddy. Check it out.
Is upon us. It's just a matter of time now. You see this at? Make Iran great. President Trump said the only way to make Iran great is for the people to take over. We're marching through the world. We're cleaning out the bad guys. We're going to have relationships with new people that will make us prosperous and safe. I've never seen anybody like it. This is Ronald Reagan plus. Donald Trump is resetting the world in a way nobody could have dreamed of a year ago. He is the greatest commander-in-chief of all time. Our military is the best of all time. Iran is going down, and Cuba is next.
Well, Lindsey Graham never met a war he didn't want to send your children to go die in. So forgive me if I'm skeptical of this guy's enthusiasm. And frankly, I'm from Miami. Nobody thinks less of the Cuban dictatorship than I do. But we have to remember that just like with the brutal regime in Iran, it was the U.S. government that put the Castro regime in power. So you might say, well, you break it, you fix it. Now we have an obligation to do something. But do we know that this is going to turn out better than the last time we intervened to take out the bad guys, as Lindsey Graham said? Last time the U.S. government intervened to take out the bad guys, it was the president of Cuba, Fulgencio Batista. And, of course, the ambassador there said, don't do this, guys. This is crazy. You're supporting a communist. What are you doing? And the U.S. government, the State Department, the liars at the New York Slimes, Herbert Matthews said, oh, no, he's a freedom fighter. It's going to be awesome. Cuba's going to be a paradise. He's like the George Washington of Latin America. All the while, our ambassador, Earl Smith, was warning them what a bad idea this would be, that he was an actual communist. And, of course, he was right. And now Cuba has lived under brutal authoritarianism, slavery, essentially, for over 60 years. Lindsey Graham, if you want to go, fight wars, I'd be happy to donate the rifle, but, please leave my children out of this. Now, there are good things happening in Cuba. People are getting sick of the dictatorship there, and without all the Venezuelan oil money and subsidies, there's a real chance that the dictatorship could fall on its own. We actually have a protest going on there right now. We've got some B-roll. You can see some of the footage. There are fires happening. People are really, really upset by what's going on with this Cuban dictatorship. But, I don't know that invading Cuba would be the best use of American time, treasure, talent. And frankly, I don't know that Cuba would end up better if the U.S. government were to intervene in that way. Our founding fathers said we should be a city on a hill, but we don't want to be searching for monsters to destroy. And if we are going to go looking for bad guys, as Lindsey Graham said, he says we're clearing out the bad guys. We've got plenty of bad guys right here, right? How many people from the Epstein files have been arrested and prosecuted? The answer is, of course, none, with the exception of Miss Maxwell. Andrew, what do you think? Is Lindsey Graham getting a little bit too excited here?
He certainly is, Alex. And of course, when you have somebody like Lindsey Graham, who, as you so well said, never seen a war he didn't like, cheering this on, it's very concerning. But you have to ask here, if we're going to go through the war and find out all the bad guys, I guess then we have to go to war with the Soviets. We have to go to war with the CCP. We have to take over a big part of Africa. We have to now fight a lot of people in Western Europe. Like, when does this stop? This is the adventurism, neocon foreign policy that I thought MAGA was going to move us away from. And so many people, Alex, are saying with this war in Iran, well, it's America first. It hurts the Chinese. There's an element of truth to that, perhaps, but I did some research last night, and China only gets 15% of its oil imports from Iran and Venezuela combined. So when you look at the hard data behind these foreign quagmires that are in our so-called interest, you start to see that it maybe isn't as significant as we've been told. And Lindsey Graham has also been quoted this week, Alex, as saying, we are going to, quote, make a ton of money off of this. Well, who is we? Is it the American taxpayer that's going to have $38+ trillion in debt? And this war is also causing a munitions crisis. What if China wants to take Taiwan right now? Do we even have the bandwidth as a country to take on a two-front war halfway across the world? This is all foolishness. And all the while, we have massive debt, Epstein crimes, first-time home buyers, 40-something years old now. The economy's in the garbage can. And you can maybe make the argument that it's short-term, but it's been 10+ years of an economy like this and the national debt growing. So it's really hard to sell that pitch. And as you said, we maybe need to give Lindsey Graham his own rifle to go and fight, because all these guys clamoring for it, they're not draft age, they don't have children, and they don't have any skin in the game.
Yeah, I would like to see Lindsey Graham have a little bit of skin in the game. Speaking of China, China is all over Latin America, in fact, using it as a launch pad for their military space operations. What is disguised as a civilian cooperation program is actually, it turns out, according to our Congress, part of a People's Liberation Army-linked global network tracking satellites and monitoring adversaries. At least 11 CCP-linked sites across Latin America being used now by the Chinese Communist military for nefarious purposes. And as Andrew just pointed out, if we deplete our resources, what little credit ability we have left on this, what do we do if and when the Chi-Coms come for us? Who knows? Now, according to Dr. Robert Malone, declassified documents from the U.S. military now show the U.S. military releasing 282,800 radioactive ticks, apparently sparking Lyme disease and the 40-year cover-up. So you got to go check this out, folks. I have suspected for years that Lyme disease was actually part of a bioweapons program. Now it looks like new declassified documents show that that was indeed the case. Lyme disease is nasty. And why are we not surprised to know that the U.S. government was involved in this as well? Now, turning to Indiana, we've got an Indiana school district agreeing to pay a former music teacher $650,000 for religious discrimination. The plaintiff here, John Kluge, his crime was refusing to use fake names and pronouns inconsistent with a student's sex. And so the Brownsburg Community School forced him to resign over this. Thankfully, the Alliance Defending Freedom came in, represented him, and they brought suit under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And so now, as part of this settlement agreement, they're going to have to train their senior staff on how to protect religious employees from discrimination. Now, we've got a Save Our Children protest started on Hollywood Boulevard, starting small, but they are calling for all these pedophiles in the entertainment world and other places to be taken down and held accountable. Check it out.
Got to go! Ho, ho! These pedophiles have got to go! Ho, ho! These pedophiles have got to go!
And we've also got mega rapper Salt from Salt and Peppa, used to be big, at least when I was younger, saying that Hollywood and the music industry are literally run by Satanists and occultists and weirdos. Listen.
Hey y'all, so the cat's out the bag. I've been studying this type of thing for years, but you can't really talk about it because people will think that you're crazy. So now we know Satanists and Luciferians run the world. 2 Corinthians, it describes that Satan is the god of this world. They own the government, politics, Democrats and Republicans, the court system, the education system, the banks, the Federal Reserve.
More and more people speaking out on this. It's like the truth is coming out. You know what? God did promise us that all of the evil deeds are going to be revealed. They're going to be brought into the light. But we may not be able to talk about them for too much longer. If you go over to the United Kingdom, formerly Great Britain, I don't know what's great about it anymore, but their speech prosecutions are now running at about 17 times the rate of the Soviet Union under Brezhnev. The USSR actually had 4 times as many people, so if you do the math, we're talking 68 times more prosecutions per capita per year by the British government than by the Soviet government. And obviously the British government is not the Soviet Union yet. They're not yet torturing and murdering these people. But it's a very troubling sign when in the country that gave birth ultimately to the United States of America, where we get our traditions and our legal heritage from, free speech is now in such mortal danger that people are being thrown in prison right and left. There was an interesting exchange in Congress. A female pastor who believes the government ought to take your money and give it to the people she thinks ought to get it, really grilled nicely by Congressman Michael Cloud. Listen to this.
You, to the extent that you did to one of those brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did this to me. I would ask you, who's the you in that passage?
Thank you for your question. You, meaning all of us, the followers of Christ.
Followers of Christ, right. In Matthew 24:3, it says, after Jesus was sitting on the Mountain of Olives and the disciples came to him privately, and then they asked him, that began this whole chapter. Now, what Christ didn't say was to lobby your government. He said, if you have, you give. That's the general biblical principle here.
Oh, it gets better and better, folks. We don't have time to show you the whole clip, but it's absolutely brilliant. So thank you to Congressman McLeod for hitting those really, really important issues. We've got to stop allowing the radical left to pervert and misinterpret Scripture. Jesus never commanded us to lobby the government to take stuff from people and give it to other people. That's simply not a Christian position. Now, entrepreneur and former presidential candidate Andrew Yang says massive disruption is heading toward us and that white-collar jobs are going to all but disappear. Listen.
I am terribly sad to record this. I believe that millions of white-collar workers are going to lose their jobs in the next 12 to 18 months due to AI. AI is now able to do the work of a very, very smart human in minutes or even seconds. This is going to displace marketers, coders, designers, lawyers, accountants, call center workers, you name it. The result of this is going to be an ever more extreme winner-take-all economy where the top 20% or so are able to thrive and then the bottom 80% are left behind. And when people lose their jobs, it affects dry cleaners, dog walkers, hairstylists, restaurants, all local businesses that see less people who are able to spend. Personal bankruptcies are going to surge. College graduates are going to have a very difficult time finding entry-level jobs. People are going to be very, very angry by the fact that this path to middle-class status and social mobility is going to be broken. We should be doing much, much more, including a universal basic income. The AI job apocalypse is real, and it's underway right now.
All right, folks. A lot going on right now, a lot to be concerned about. We're going to go to break in just a moment. We're going to come back with the great Dr. Meryl Nass, incredible lady. She was actually forced to undergo a psychiatric evaluation by the government for warning people about the COVID scam. Truly incredible. So she's been put through the ringer, but we're going to talk to her about the latest on Jeffrey Epstein and the World Health Organization and much more. So stay with us for that. Before we go to break, we also want to encourage you to go check out classicalconversations.com. If you have children or grandchildren that you love and you want them to get a real education, that's a good place to start. I actually have my own children enrolled there. Incredible programs, incredible resources. Now the largest homeschool material provider in the world. They got 140,000 students, the biggest network out there. And there's a reason why. It's because they're doing amazing work. So go check it out, classicalconversations.com/LSM, and stay with us. We're going to be right back with more right here on the Sentinel Report. Hey guys, Alex Newman here. I want to tell you about a wonderful ministry that is doing incredibly important work. That's Public School Exit. I am very blessed to serve as the volunteer executive director. We've got an incredible team, and our mission is simple. Try to get as many children into the safe sanctuary of Christian education as humanly possible, as quickly as possible. Government schools are no place for children. Children need to learn about God. They need to learn the Word of God. They need real education. They need to learn how to read, write, and do math. And we all know that's not what's happening in the government schools. In fact, what's happening is they're turning our children into revolutionaries, little radicals ready to burn down our churches and our civilization, not to mention our families. So go check it out today, publicschoolexit.com. We've got all kinds of resources for parents, for pastors, for taxpayers, for everybody down the line. And folks, this is one of the most critical battles. So go check out our partners at publicschoolexit.com, publicschoolexit.com. Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, thanks for being with us. Now, we are not going to stop talking about the pandemic, plandemic, scamdemic, whatever you want to call it. There are still no criminals in jail for all of this. And we're learning more about the real nature of pandemic preparedness and biosecurity and biodefense from the Epstein files. And we have joining us today a very special guest, a woman who I've come to respect greatly. Her name is Dr. Meryl Nass. You probably remember her from the COVID pandemic. They came after her like a pack of wild hyenas because she was exposing their lies and exposing their scams. She's an internist. She's a biological warfare epidemiologist. She has special interest in vaccine-induced illnesses, chronic fatigue syndrome, Gulf War illness. She's a biological warfare expert. As I mentioned, she investigated the world's largest anthrax epizootic in Zimbabwe. And she's been involved in a lot of different things. She's active in assisting legal teams on defending anthrax vaccine refusers. And she's done so much more. Dr. Nass, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely. It's an honor and a pleasure. Meryl, I want to ask you about the Epstein files. Now, we know that Epstein had a very serious interest in pandemic preparedness. We know that he was close to a lot of the key pandemic preparedness people like Bill Gates. We know that he got an invitation to attend a pandemic preparedness event at the World Health Organization headquarters, high-level session in Geneva. And we know that he was communicating with a lot of people about these very issues, genetically engineered viruses, things like this. You've been tracking a little bit of what's going on with Epstein, and of course, you're an expert on what happened to us during the COVID. What do you make of all of this that's coming out?
Well, I think we don't have even anywhere near the full story on Epstein yet. I think that people should set aside their ideas about his sex trafficking is terrible, especially of minors, and all of that is awful and needs to be investigated. But right now, what is his role in terms of setting the agenda for the Great Reset or the future that elites had in mind? And it seems that he was intimately involved in cultivating great thinkers and as well as experimental scientists at Harvard, at MIT, and at other places, bringing them sometimes to the island, having special private conferences, and trying to develop certain ideas about eugenics, ideas that would only come out of Brave New World, or things like that. In addition to his work trying to maybe invent people, create dollies of human beings, seed his own DNA into the human genome, he was also instrumental in developing digital currencies, and having Larry Summers do some of the work on that, who apparently he was intimately involved with. So as well as trying to change the currency in ways that we see our elites are trying to change the currency now, he just had his finger in a lot of pies. He had a lot of money to do this with, and although we know that or it's alleged, and Lex Wexner agrees that he scammed him for many millions of dollars, we know that he had 150 million plus from Leon Black, probably through blackmail, but he really wasn't primarily a blackmailer, because he wouldn't have been able to be successful if he was making his money through blackmail. The people would have dropped him once the word got out that that's what he was doing. So he was making his money some other way. It may have been through the intelligence agencies paying him. He had enormous amounts of money to throw around. He had, these parties that people wanted. Elon Musk wanted to go, Noam Chomsky wanted to go to the island. I mean, it's extraordinary that people who should have known better, Steve Bannon was a good buddy of his. So people who ought to have known some of the things he was up to didn't have a problem with him, and were willing to use their brains to be in his circle and help him to develop these dystopian programs that would be applied to the rest of us.
Yeah, it's really, really troubling. I want to go back to the World Health Organization and the pandemic. There are rumors that more pandemics may be coming in the future, and that the World Health Organization needs to take the lead. We saw what happened during COVID. In my opinion, a lot of crime happened during COVID. Nobody has been held accountable yet. I know you've worked with quite a few people within the federal government on various issues involving these things. What's the tie-in? Like, do we need to have accountability for what they did to us during COVID to prevent something like that in the future? And do you think it's a risk that they would try something like that again?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that question. My personal opinion is that until you put people in jail, there's no accountability. So, for instance, we saw that Vioxx, when Merck marketed Vioxx, already knew it was causing blood clots, heart attacks, strokes, etc. And so did the FDA. And FDA gave them the license. And we know we've got many examples over time of the FDA licensing drugs that are much more harmful than they are useful. And so the FDA in the past has been, politically making decisions based on politics rather than health. The Merck was willing, because it was an effective painkiller, to keep marketing Vioxx and assume that paying off claims was going to be the cost of doing business, because nobody from Merck ever had to go to jail for that, or nor from the FDA. Now, it's been about 40 years since the CEO of a major pharmaceutical manufacturer has actually been put in jail, maybe 50 years. And so they feel that they can get away with pumping dangerous drugs and vaccines out, and they'll have to pay whatever they have to pay. It comes out of the company. It doesn't come out of their pocket. And meanwhile, they're doing well and the stock price is going up. So I am a strong proponent that fines are not enough. I was very disheartened to hear that Trump is going to let go of the issue of the auto pen, that they are not going to try to prosecute anyone or develop that case. Even at saying what I read was that they couldn't find a statute that would be appropriate or applicable. Well, ask the Congress to pass a statute then that will be applicable, because you can't have anonymous people because executive orders are laws, pardons are essentially, they have the force of law, and you can't have anonymous people doing that. And I mean, we don't have any version of democracy or a republic if anonymous people are making the rules. And okay, in terms of the WHO, that I agree with you, they made a lot of terrible recommendations. They called them recommendations, but many nations said we are obligated to follow the WHO, or in some cases, we are obligated to follow NATO. And the people don't know why nations were obligated to follow NATO or the WHO, because there's nothing in the law that we can see that obligates our countries to do that. But it took the responsibility off our own lawmakers and our presidents and prime ministers. And so people did follow the WHO. The WHO, of course, was their number one donor was Bill Gates, and he has been able to call a lot of the shots. Well, Bill Gates was also donating tremendous amounts of money to Jeffrey Epstein. Some of that money went into the issue of genetically engineering microorganisms, and some of it went into vaccine research. Jeffrey Epstein was very aware that to get money out of Bill Gates, you should say that it has to do with vaccines, and you are more likely to get the money.
Yep. Yeah, it's so true. We're almost out of time in this segment, Meryl, but I want to ask you, what should Americans be doing right now to try to bring about justice, to try to bring accountability, and to try to protect themselves and their freedom in the future, right? Just based on what we know, these evildoers may try again. How do we protect ourselves and our liberties and our children?
Another great question. So we know that demonstrating in the streets really hasn't gotten us anywhere. We know that petitions haven't done anything. What can we do? Our money is the most important thing. Certainly when I was young, there was a movement led by Cesar Chavez not to buy grapes because the grape pickers were being treated badly. And that was effective. When people stopped buying grapes and the companies, growing grapes and selling grapes could not make any money, things changed. So it seems that, as Charles Eisenstein has said in an article published today, if we're serious about making change, and I'm not sure that the American people are yet, because we feel disempowered, we don't know what to do or where to go. But if we're serious, if we can boycott certain companies or take our, what was effective before about 50 years ago was demanding that institutions like universities and hospitals take their retirement plans or their whatever money they had, their endowments, and not invest in South Africa, for example. And that had a big impact. So if we can figure out, how to get our money out of these companies, and it's not easy because BlackRock owns about 7% of everything. But if people can get together, and those who know about this can figure out how the rest of us can take our money out of certain corporations like those that make the highest profits, which is pharmaceuticals and the military-industrial complex, maybe we can make a difference. Certainly, blowing up these huge oil facilities in Iran and in Haifa is making a difference to the market right away, right? The people who own oil companies, other oil companies, may be very happy that the price of oil has gone up, but for everybody else, the price of everything else is going up, and they're not happy. And that may put pressure on Trump to stop the war in Iran.
Yeah, very good. Well, Meryl, you have a wonderful Substack. People can find that at merylnass.substack.com. Is there any other place where people can follow your work? I know you're on Children's Health Defense TV. What's the best way for people to follow your work?
That's probably the best. I have been throttled on X, so you won't find me there. And I'm being throttled actually on Substack at the moment. But do subscribe, and hopefully Substack will not throw you off the subscription list, and resubscribe if they do. And I thank you very much.
Well, Meryl Nass, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon, and thanks again. All right, folks, stay with us. We're going to be right back with more after this quick break.
Life's just better with VNI. There's purpose, there's passion, and there's a renewed sense of inspiration and optimism with every day. After all, we were founded on the power of possibility. Nearly a decade ago, a team of world-class scientists, formulators, and industry makers brought together biology, chemistry, and technology, and created something unique and life-changing, while infusing a new sense of health and hope into the world. With every product comes an empowering opportunity to take charge of our destiny. One where we feel rejuvenated and energized, and everything else around us feels lighter, brighter, and full of promise. Let's live victoriously, together.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Thanks for being with us, folks. Obviously, a big divide has broken out in the MAGA movement. Iran, the war in Iran, of course, being just one of several issues. People have expressed concern also about the Board of Peace. Is this kind of some new and improved form of globalism, or is this the end of globalism? And honestly, a lot of his voters are confused. Some of his early major supporters, who are extremely influential among conservatives, whether we like it or not, have really been at odds with the president over some of what's going on. Charlie Kirk, of course, was famously opposed to a war in Iraq. Tucker Carlson is now really on the warpath, no pun intended, about this war in Iran. And so joining us today to discuss all of this and much more, we have a friend of the show, co-founder of Armor of Truth, Brad Ward. He is an analyst. He's a Christian. He has been on before. He's a cultural apologist, and I just love their ministry. Armor of Truth is a nonprofit Christian media organization, and of course, they're dedicated to the Great Commission, as we are here, dedicated to defending the Christian worldview, the biblical worldview in the public square, and they're doing a wonderful job over at armoroftruth.substack.com. I encourage you to go over there, check it out, subscribe. There's really, really good updates on all the critical issues of the day. His wife Summer also works with him on this, and they're just doing a great job. Brad, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
Of course, honor and a pleasure to have you. Brad, so you have focused recently on this divide in MAGA world. In fact, you have a great post from the end of last month, Not Iraq 2.0, the U.S.-Iran strike, the Board of Peace, and the end of the old empire. What's your take on all of this? Is Trump kind of going back on his campaign promises, or some of the people in his base right to be upset with him?
We think Trump is not going back on his campaign promises, but instead rather moving forward the agenda that he had the opportunity to perfect, I guess we'll say, over the 4 years when he was out of office. We like to say that it was God's providence that he was out for 4 years, because it gave him that much time to figure out a little bit more about how things work right there, I guess, in the swamp. But what we see is, among the base, a division of those, as you mentioned, those who are upset because it looks like we're in a forever war. We're doing regime change again. But I think there's a fundamental difference that we need to pay attention to, a couple really. One is the lens we use to evaluate it. If we're talking about the George Bush administration, I hear you. I agree. But Bush was bought into a little different plan. And Trump's agenda mentioned in the national security strategy and the national defense strategy, and you hear the rhetoric coming out of the administration all the time, is that it's a return to sovereignty. And really, that's really the theme of how we're approaching this, is a return to sovereignty and empowerment of the American people. Now, specifically about the war, about, excuse me, about Iran. I think the question isn't whether America uses power, but whether that power is being used to build empire, as the Bush administration was working in conjunction with perhaps other globalists to do, or whether he's working to restore sovereignty and stability. And I'll leave it there for now and let you ask more questions. But I think that's how we need to pay attention to the lens we're using to. We need to evaluate this administration according to its stated policies and then their actions. And I think that's a good way to go about it.
And so you think the outcome of this conflict in Iran may be a more stable Middle East by the time all is said and done, rather than a long-term U.S. occupation costing trillions of dollars and endless amounts of American lives?
That remains to be seen, of course. Now, of course, regime change is obviously an element of this, but I don't think it's nation building like we saw under previous regimes. Again, the stated policies and their adherence to them up to this point, I think we should hold them accountable to that. If we see NGOs coming into Iran, that would be a problem. Pahlavi may be a good person for a transition, but he hasn't lived there. He shouldn't be the guy who runs things. Trump mentioned, as Summer said in the article, he specifically said to the Iranian people, take over your government. It will be yours to take. So that signals the construction of a new regime, but not the construction of a new regime, but the refusal to impose one. At least that was Trump's position. Mm-hmm. Now, there's clearly problems. We have got a nation of 90 million, right? So to affect some kind of, or to prevent that from going haywire is going to be difficult. That remains to be seen. But with the Board of Peace and its foundation, its goals, which is also sovereignty. If you listen to their first meeting, there's a strong emphasis on sovereignty. They probably will play a big role in that. I mean, that's what I expect to see. So I don't think it would be just chaos there. I think there is a plan in place, and I think perhaps Trump has earned some the benefit of the doubt when it comes to something like this. And I would hope that the base would maybe use this new lens and hold them accountable to that national security strategy. Again, if we see NGOs coming in there and this looks like, they just remove everyone from government and don't use their people, then we can hold them accountable to that.
Yeah. So, Brad, we've only got a few minutes left. I do want to ask you about the Board of Peace. I haven't said much about this publicly because I'm still trying to make sense of it. It's a very new thing. At first, people were talking about it as a possible rival to the UN, something that may replace the UN. Later, we heard Trump himself talking about how it might help improve the UN. There's still obviously a lot of questions. Some governments have joined, and I still don't know what to make of it, but I would love to hear your take. How do we make sense of this new institution? What should be the role of the U.S. government in an institution like this? And do you think it can improve the world, I suppose?
Again, their stated goals seem good. Again, as I said earlier, one of their goals is sovereignty. So let's take Gaza, for example. What they've stated that they will do there is they will build up an infrastructure, law enforcement. Basically, what you heard from that first meeting was, we want to set up a situation here where the people who live here can come back, or the ones who are still there, can work and lift themselves up through an economy. Okay. And then in 10 years' time, the goal is to return this over to the people. Now, if that was to remain, true, that would be an excellent thing to see. So another thing about the Board of Peace, you see a lot of language. I've heard people from our side say this is just, another United Nations. They use the term sustainable development, but they define it very differently. It's just what I said. They mean sustainable by setting up an economic system, helping to get, grease the wheels, to prime the pump, so that the people who live here have an opportunity to lift themselves up. They have a sovereign nation. And I think that's good. So far, it's really about removing the last engine of perpetual regional conflict, as Summers written in the article. So a new architecture of stability and development can take root. Instead of exporting regime change, it seeks to end the system that profited from chaos in the first place. So I think that's how we're thinking about it right now. We hope to hold them accountable to these promises.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Obviously, a lot of questions and a lot of infighting now in the MAGA movement. So hopefully we'll see some clarity soon. But folks, I do want to recommend that you get over to check out their Substack. It's armoroftruth.substack.com. They're also on YouTube doing really great work. You find it at Armor of Truth. Brad, where else are you guys? I know you're on Substack. I know you're on YouTube. Are you on any of the social media outlets? Can people follow you any other place?
Our primary show is on YouTube. We also share it on Substack. Our primary platforms are Substack and YouTube. We're also on Instagram and Telegram. We can't be on X for some reason. We were given the heave-ho there. We're not sure why, but I know many people have experienced that. But you can find us at those places.
Excellent. Brad Ward, really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for sharing your insights. And folks, do go check out that website. You'll find it at armoroftruth.substack.com. One of the recent articles, Not Iraq 2.0, the U.S.-Iran Strike, the Board of Peace, and the End of the Old Empire. A lot of good insights on all different issues from a Christian perspective. I can tell you I have really, really enjoyed it. I have really learned a lot and value it. Brad, thank you once again for coming on the program. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
All right, folks. That's all we have time for today here on the Sentinel Report, but I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to encourage you to send this out to others. So again, don't just get mad at the news. Do something useful. Do something that honors and glorifies the Lord. You can find us more at libertysentinel.org. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, you can go get that there, libertysentinel.org. And God willing, we shall be back next week. And by the way, folks, more and more radio stations picking us up. K-Talk in Salt Lake City, one of the new additions, a wonderful, wonderful station out there. They're going to be broadcasting us if you're in the Salt Lake City area every Wednesday, drive time in the morning and the evening, and maybe again on Friday too. And we have more stations coming online on a regular basis, so we'll keep you updated. You can also hear us on the radio or your favorite podcast program or your YouTube or your Rumble or whatever it is that you use to listen. Now, thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate you, and God willing, we shall talk to you next week. Until then, thanks again. God bless you all.